I've always been someone who loves to travel. There's something about getting away from the routine, exploring new places, and just disconnecting for a while. So, when I stumbled upon this Airbnb listing one late night, I didn't think twice about booking it. I wasn't planning anything extravagant, just a weekend getaway to clear my head. The listing popped up while I was scrolling through the site. It was a small, rustic cabin in the middle of nowhere. The photos were stunning. Tall trees surrounding the property, a peaceful lake nearby, and a cozy interior with a fireplace. It looked perfect. Almost too perfect. The host's description sold it to me. They called it a serene escape for those seeking solitude. That was exactly what I needed. I checked the reviews, and while there weren't many, the ones that were there were positive. People talked about how quiet and peaceful it was. That was enough for me. I booked it for the upcoming weekend and didn't give it much thought. The drive out there was uneventful. The GPS took me through winding roads, dense forests, and stretches of highway that felt like they went on forever. By the time I arrived, the sun was starting to set, casting an orange glow over the cabin. The place looked just like the photos, quaint, charming, and isolated. Too isolated, maybe. There were no neighboring houses in sight, just trees and the faint sound of the lake in the distance. I let myself in using the code the host had sent me. The inside was cozy, just as advertised. A little too quiet, though. I chalked it up to being used to the noise of the city. The first night passed without incident. I spent most of it reading by the fireplace, enjoying the solitude. It wasn't until the second day that things started to feel off. It started with small things. My phone charger, for example. I left it plugged into the wall by the couch, but when I went to grab it later, it was on the kitchen counter. I figured I must have moved it and forgotten. Then there were the noises. At first, it was just the creaking of the wooden floors, which I told myself was normal for an old cabin. But as the night went on, the sounds became harder to ignore. Footsteps, not the faint creaks of settling wood, but deliberate, heavy steps coming from upstairs. That didn't make sense, though. The cabin was a single story. There was no upstairs. I tried to laugh it off, telling myself it was my imagination, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Around midnight, I decided to head to bed. I locked the doors, checked the windows, and even left a light on in the hallway. I don't usually sleep with a light on, but something about the darkness here felt different. It wasn't just dark, it was oppressive, like it was pressing down on me. I woke up sometime in the middle of the night. At first, I didn't know what had woken me. The room was silent except for the faint sound of wind outside. I was about to go back to sleep when I heard it again. The footsteps. This time they were louder, and they weren't coming from upstairs. They were coming from the hallway. Slowly, I got out of bed and opened the door. The hallway was empty. The light I'd left on was still on, casting long shadows on the walls. I checked every room. Nothing. No sign of anyone or anything that could have made those sounds. I went back to bed, but I didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, I tried to shake it off. I told myself I was just being paranoid. I even laughed about it, thinking I'd scared myself over nothing. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I spent the day exploring the area, trying to distract myself. The lake was beautiful and the forest was peaceful. For a while, I almost forgot about the night before, but as the sun started to set, that uneasy feeling crept back in. That night, the footsteps came back, louder this time, and closer. It was as if someone, or something, was walking just outside my bedroom door. I stayed in bed, clutching my phone like it was some kind of weapon. The footsteps stopped. Again. But the silence that followed was worse. It was the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl, like the air is too still, too heavy. And then I heard it. A whisper. Faint, but unmistakable. It was coming from the other side of the door. I couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like someone was speaking directly to me, in a voice that wasn't quite human. It was low and guttural, like it was coming from deep in their throat. I don't know how long I stayed frozen like that, listening to the whispers. Eventually they stopped, and the footsteps started again, fading away into the distance. The next morning, I packed my things and left. I didn't care that I'd paid for another night. I just wanted to get out of there. As I was leaving, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Carved into the wooden frame of the front door were 3 words: "Don't stay long." I don't know who carved it or why, but I didn't need to be told twice. I've thought about that weekend a lot since then. I've tried to make sense of what happened, but I can't. I don't know if the cabin was haunted or if I was just losing my mind. All I know is that I'll never go back. If you're ever scrolling through Airbnb and you come across a listing that seems too good to be true, maybe think twice before booking it. Some places are meant to be left alone.